My name is Dominique Bradford, and at 73 years old, I never expected to be pushed off my own yacht by my daughter-in-law, Sophia. $3 billion makes people do terrible things, even my own son, Anthony. Their smiles vanished when they returned to my mansion and found me sitting in my study chair. The shock on their faces when they realized I survived their murder attempt was priceless. The special gift I prepared for them, justice, served cold. If you're watching this video right now, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, hit that like button, and subscribe to hear how I outsmarted the people who tried to steal everything from me. I wasn't always wealthy. I arrived in America in 1968 with nothing but $20 and a dream. The tech revolution was just beginning, and I saw opportunity everywhere. While working 3 jobs to put myself through college, I met William Bradford, my brilliant husband and the love of my life. Together, we started Bradford Technologies in our garage in 1975, writing code while sitting on folding chairs and eating ramen noodles. William had the technical genius, and I had the business acumen. We complemented each other perfectly. Those early years were tough but exhilarating. We slept 4 hours a night, worked ourselves to exhaustion, and built our company one client at a time. Our breakthrough came in 1981, with security software that major banks adopted nationwide. Suddenly, we weren't struggling anymore. Anthony came along in 1985, our miracle baby, after years of trying. From the moment he was born, we gave him everything we never had. The best schools, summer programs at prestigious universities, international travel experiences. William would take him to the office on weekends, hoping to nurture his interest in the family business. "He has your sharp mind, Dom," William would say proudly. I wanted to believe it. As Bradford Technologies grew into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, Anthony grew too surrounded by wealth and privilege. He graduated from Princeton, then Harvard Business School, all funded by the company we built from nothing. Unlike us, he never knew struggle or sacrifice. William died unexpectedly from a heart attack 12 years ago. I was devastated, but the company needed leadership. Anthony was only 28 then, too inexperienced to take over. So, I stepped up, channeling my grief into growing our legacy. The company tripled in value under my guidance, reaching that $3 billion valuation that would later make me a target. Anthony met Sophia Parker at a charity gala 5 years ago. She was stunning with an elegant grace that turned heads. A former model with a business degree, she seemed perfect. Their romance was a whirlwind. 3 months later, he proposed with a family heirloom ring that had belonged to William's mother. "Mom, she's the one," Anthony told me, eyes shining with certainty I hadn't seen since he was a child. I was overjoyed. After losing William, I longed for family again. Sophia called me Mom right from the start, hugged me warmly, and asked about family recipes and traditions. I was touched by her interest in our history. I threw them the wedding of the century. 200 guests at our Hampton estate, a reception under the stars, fireworks over the ocean. As a wedding gift, I gave them a $5 million penthouse in Manhattan and seed money for Anthony to start his own investment firm within our corporate structure. Looking back, the red flags were there. Sophia's questions about my will during our first Christmas together, her constant references to Anthony as the heir when speaking to friends, the way she studied our company organizational charts during family dinners. But I dismissed these observations, attributing them to her natural curiosity and ambition. Anthony changed subtly after the wedding. His visits became less frequent. Our weekly lunches turned monthly, then quarterly. He began questioning company decisions that had never interested him before. Sophia would call asking detailed questions about shareholders and board members. "Just trying to understand the family business better," she would say with that dazzling smile. "I want to support Anthony when he eventually takes over." Eventually. That word hung in the air like a prophecy. For my 73rd birthday, I decided to take them on a 2-week Mediterranean cruise on my private yacht, the Bradford Legacy. I planned to discuss my retirement and a 5-year succession plan. It seemed perfect. Beautiful scenery quality, family time, and important business discussions. The night before we departed, I revised my will, not out of suspicion but responsible planning. My lawyer Jackson Thompson suggested adding additional oversight provisions. Just standard protections, Dominique, he assured me. For estates of your magnitude. I had no idea how prescient his advice would be. As we set sail from Monaco toward the Italian coast, I was filled with hope for reconnecting with my son and daughter-in-law. The Mediterranean sun sparkled on azure waters as Anthony raised a champagne toast. To the most incredible mother and businesswoman I know, he set his glass, catching the light. And to new beginnings. New beginnings indeed. I had no idea they had already planned my end. Our first days at sea were picture-perfect. Breakfast on the upper deck, swimming in secluded coves, dinners under the stars. Anthony seemed more attentive than he had been in years, asking about my early days building the company. Sophia took photos of everything, documenting our precious family memories, as she called them. On the third night, unable to sleep, I wandered to the main salon for a book. Voices drifted from the rear deck. Anthony and Sophia speaking in hushed tones. "We need those account passwords," Sophia whispered urgently. "The transfer has to happen immediately after." "I told you she keeps everything with that annoying CFO, Eleanor," Anthony replied. "But once this is done, Eleanor won't be a problem." I froze, my heart racing. They could have been discussing anything, I reasoned. Business matters. Surprise party plans. Yet something in their tone sent ice through my veins. The next morning, I checked my company email and noticed someone had accessed confidential acquisition files from my account at 2 a.m. while I was sleeping. The login location showed the Yacht's network. I called Eleanor, my CFO and closest friend since the company's founding. She had declined the cruise, preferring solid ground to ocean waves. "Someone's been in the Singapore merger documents," I told her quietly from my cabin. "Can you check for other unusual activities?" Eleanor called back 4 hours later, her voice tight with concern. "Dominique, there have been multiple unauthorized access attempts to our banking protocols. And someone's been reviewing the corporate succession documents repeatedly." "Any idea who?" I asked, though I already suspected. "The IP addresses trace back to your Yacht network and Anthony's personal devices." That night at dinner, Sophia insisted on preparing a special seafood dish herself. "An old family recipe," she said. I found it odd, since she'd once mentioned growing up in Kansas, about as far from seafood as one could get. After eating, I felt strangely dizzy and retired early. The following afternoon, I noticed my heart medication looked different somehow. The pills were the same color but slightly different in size. I didn't take them, instead securing a pill in a tissue and placing it in my cabin safe. Anthony's questions became more pointed. "Mom, have you considered simplifying the corporate structure? It's unnecessarily complex. I was thinking we could consolidate power more directly." Consolidate power. An interesting choice of words. Sophia began making concerned observations within earshot of the crew. "Dominique forgot our lunch plans again today. I'm worried about these memory lapses." I had made no such plans with her. Later, she said to Anthony, not realizing I was around the corner, "Your mother seems confused about which ports we've visited. At her age, it's to be expected, but should we consult someone?" I was neither confused nor forgetful. I was becoming increasingly alert. That night, I installed a small security camera in my cabin, one of several I'd brought as a precaution. Old habits from building a security software company die hard. The footage confirmed my worst fears. While I was having my morning swim, Anthony and Sophia entered my cabin. They went straight to my safe, Anthony trying various combinations. When unsuccessful, Sophia pulled out papers. "These are drafts for a mental competency evaluation," she said. "If we can get a doctor to sign off, we don't need her passwords. We can take emergency control of everything." I watched in silent horror as my son nodded in agreement. I called Jackson Thompson immediately. "I need you to lock down the corporate structure," I instructed. "No changes without dual authentication from both me and Eleanor. And prepare contingency documents in case something happens to me." "Dominique, what's going on?" he asked, alarmed. "Hopefully nothing," I replied. "But prepare for the worst." That evening, Sophia suggested we change course towards some remote Greek islands for privacy. The captain consulted me, and I deliberately approved, wanting to see their full plan unfold. I searched Anthony's cabin while they were swimming and found a burner phone hidden in his luggage. The text messages were damning. After the accident, move quickly on Bradford Tech. The board needs to see immediate leadership. Accident. The word made my blood run cold. Our yacht was now 2 days from the nearest major port in a relatively isolated stretch of the Mediterranean, perfect for an accident at sea. The tension became unbearable. Each smile from Sophia, each toast from Anthony felt like a knife twisting in my heart. My son, my only child, the boy I had read bedtime stories to and nursed through chicken pox, was plotting my death. That night, I secretly transferred critical company files and evidence to Eleanor through an encrypted channel. If you don't hear from me daily, I instructed her implement emergency protocol Bradford Sunrise. She understood immediately. Be careful, Dom, she replied. I have a security team on standby. The next morning, as we approached a small archipelago of uninhabited islands, I knew time was running out. The perfect location for a tragic disappearance was approaching. I needed to be ready for whatever they planned. The yacht's security system had been my own design years ago, so accessing the footage remotely was simple. What I saw confirmed my worst fears. Anthony and Sophia in their cabin, voices low but clear. Tomorrow night, Anthony said. During her evening walk on the deck. No witnesses, clean entry to the water. Sophia nodded. The current here flows away from shipping lanes. By the time anyone could search, it would be impossible to find her. The captain will report the incident immediately, Anthony continued. The search will be thorough but futile. Will appear appropriately devastated. I felt physically ill watching them, but forced myself to continue gathering evidence. Through Eleanor, I accessed Anthony's secret email account. There, I found draft press releases already prepared. Bradford Technologies mourns. Sudden loss of founder. Anthony Bradford steps up. Following mother's tragic accident, Bradford family establishes memorial fund in honor of Dominique. They'd even prepared quotes from themselves expressing profound grief and commitment to carrying on my legacy. The timestamps showed these drafts were created before our trip even began. That afternoon, I decided to test them. During lunch, I casually mentioned discrepancies I'd noticed in the quarterly reports. The Singapore acquisition numbers don't add up, I said, watching Anthony carefully. I think someone may have been manipulating the projections. Anthony's face remained composed, but his hand tightened around his water glass. Mom, we went over those reports last month. You approved everything. Don't you remember? We had never discussed the Singapore acquisition. It was a deliberate trap, and he'd fallen into it. Dominique Sophia interjected with exaggerated concern. This is the 3rd time this week you've forgotten important discussions. We're worried about you. Yes, I replied mildly. My memory must be slipping in my old age. That evening, I found my tea tasted strangely bitter. Pretending to drink it, I later examined the cup and found residue of crushed sleeping pills. They were getting bolder. In my cabin, I discovered documents about changing my will that I had never authorized. The forged signatures were good, but not perfect. Eleanor confirmed that similar documents had been presented to the company's legal department, but were flagged as suspicious. I encrypted all the evidence I had gathered and sent it to 3 separate secure locations, Eleanor Jackson Thompson, and a digital vault only I could access. Then I recorded a video detailing everything I had discovered and my suspicions about what was to come. If you're seeing this, I concluded, and I've suffered an accident on this yacht, it was no accident. The final dinner was theatrical in its false warmth. Anthony ordered the chef to prepare my favorite meal. Sophia presented me with a beautiful scarf to keep warm during evening deck walks. The captain opened a vintage champagne to toast my birthday. To my extraordinary mother, Anthony said, raising his glass, who built an empire from nothing. May you enjoy many more years of health and happiness. Their glasses clinked against mine, their eyes never betraying the lie. I noted how they watched as I drank, probably ensuring I consumed whatever they had added to my champagne. I had switched glasses with Sophia when she wasn't looking. "I have an announcement," I said after dinner. "Tomorrow morning, I'd like to discuss the future of Bradford Technologies. I've made some decisions about succession and leadership." Anthony and Sophia exchanged quick glances. "That sounds wonderful, Mom," Anthony replied smoothly. "We're looking forward to it." "Yes," I thought. "I'm sure you are." I pretended to retire early, complaining of fatigue. Instead, I prepared for what I knew would be the most dangerous night of my life. I placed my phone in a waterproof case on a cord around my neck under my clothes. I wore a lightweight, quick-drying outfit beneath my robe. In my pocket, I kept a small, high-powered flashlight and a personal locator beacon designed for maritime emergencies. Then I waited, pretending to sleep, when a shadow paused outside my door, checking on me. Around midnight, I rose and made my way to the upper deck, knowing they would follow. It was time to spring their trap while prepared rather than be caught unaware. The Mediterranean night was clear, and beautiful stars reflecting on the dark water. In another lifetime, I would have enjoyed this moment of peace. Instead, I was calculating survival odds and waiting for my would-be murderers to make their move. I didn't have to wait long. The night air carried the scent of salt and distant land as I stood at the yacht's railing. The Bradford legacy cut silently through dark waters, our nearest neighbors miles away. The vastness of the Mediterranean stretched before me, beautiful and terrifying in its emptiness. I heard soft footsteps approaching and steadied myself. Sophia appeared holding 2 champagne flutes, her silk nightgown fluttering in the breeze. Her smile seemed genuine in the moonlight. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked, offering me a glass. "I thought we could use a nightcap." I accepted the glass but didn't drink. "It's a beautiful night," I replied. "Makes me reflect on everything I've built, everything I'll leave behind someday." Sophia moved beside me, looking out at the water. "You've created an incredible legacy, Dominique. Anthony and I often talk about how we'll honor that legacy when the time comes." When the time comes. Not if, but when. "I've been thinking about the company's future," I said carefully. "About who should lead after me." She turned her expression, eager beneath a veneer of casual interest. "Oh, any particular thoughts?" "Many," I replied. "I'll share them tomorrow during our family meeting." Disappointment flickered across her face, quickly replaced by determination. She moved closer, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You know Anthony loves you very much," she said softly. "Everything we do is to protect what you've built." "Is that so?" "Of course. We only want what's best." Her hand tightened slightly on my shoulder. "Best for the company, best for the family legacy." I noticed movement in the shadows behind us. Anthony watching silently, making no effort to reveal himself. "And what do you think is best, Sophia?" I asked. Her expression changed, then warmth draining away, replaced by something cold and calculating. Her hand moved to the center of my back. "For an old woman to rest," she whispered, leaning close to my ear. "Say hi to the sharks, Dominique." With surprising strength, she shoved me hard. I felt myself pitching forward over the railing. In that suspended moment before falling, I caught sight of Anthony stepping from the shadows, not to save me but to witness. His face showed no horror, no shock at his wife's actions. Only a small, satisfied smile. Then I was falling, a strangled cry escaping my throat as I plunged toward the dark water. The impact knocked the breath from my lungs, cold water enveloping me in its merciless grip. The yacht's lights continued moving. No alarms raised, no rescue attempted. They weren't even going to pretend to try saving me. The weight of betrayal pressed heavier than the water itself. My own son had stood by smiling as his wife murdered me. The pain of that reality was sharper than my fear of drowning. But 73 years of fighting to survive kicked in. I shed my robe, immediately allowing it to sink away. The water was cold but not freezing, small mercies of the Mediterranean summer. I activated the flashlight, keeping it below water level, to avoid detection from the departing yacht. My heart pounded with exertion and shock as I treaded water, watching the Bradford legacy's lights grow smaller in the distance. They hadn't even slowed down. No doubt the captain was told I had retired for the night, and any discovery of my absence would conveniently occur when we were miles from this location. Memories flashed through my mind as I struggled to regulate my breathing. William and I working through the night on our first major contract. Anthony taking his first steps across our living room. Building our first corporate headquarters. Holidays, birthdays, triumphs, and failures. A lifetime of love and work reduced to this desperate fight for survival. The yacht disappeared over the horizon, leaving me alone in the vast darkness. Panic threatened to overwhelm me, but I forced it down. Panic kills faster than cold water. I needed to conserve energy. Removing my shoes, I let them sink away. My lightweight pants and shirt would dry quickly if I found land. I took stock of my resources. The phone in its waterproof case still functioning. The locator beacon, which I decided to save until dawn when rescue craft might be operating, and my diamond ring, which could potentially reflect light to signal passing boats. Hours passed in a grueling cycle of swimming and floating. My muscles screamed in protest, my elderly body fighting against conditions that would challenge someone half my age. Hypothermia became a growing concern as my core temperature slowly dropped. I thought of William, how devastated he would be to see what our son had become. I thought of the company we built, how Anthony and Sophia planned to dismantle and sell it for quick profit. These thoughts fueled my determination to survive, to not let their treachery succeed. When the first light of dawn broke across the horizon, I activated the emergency beacon. Its small light blinked steadily, broadcasting my location to any vessels within range. I had drifted through the night and had no idea how far I was from shipping lanes or the coast. As the sun rose higher, I spotted something in the distance. A boat, small but definitely moving. I used my diamond ring to catch sunlight, creating flashes that might attract attention. My arms felt leaden, my strength nearly depleted, but I persisted. The fishing boat changed course slightly. They had seen me. I continued signaling desperately as they approached. 2 figures stood at the bow, pointing in my direction. After what seemed an eternity, they were alongside me, strong hands reaching down to pull my exhausted body from the water. "Dio mio, una donna," exclaimed the older man, his weathered face creased with concern. "Come sei arrivata qui." His companion, a woman with kind eyes and strong arms, wrapped me in a rough blanket. "Signora, you are safe now. We help you." They were Franco and Lucia Rossi, Italian fishermen from a small coastal village. They couldn't comprehend how an elderly woman had ended up miles from shore in the middle of the night. I gave them only my first name, claiming to have fallen from a cruise ship, and deciding against revealing my true identity until I understood the full situation. In their small cabin warming by a portable heater, I checked my phone. News alerts were already appearing. Tech billionaire Dominique Bradford. Missing at sea. Bradford Technologies air leads. Search for Mother Coast Guard pessimistic about survival chances. Accompanying these headlines were photos of Anthony and Sophia, grief etched on their faces as they appealed for help finding me. Their acting was impressive. The articles noted that I had apparently fallen overboard during the night and wasn't discovered missing until morning. The search, according to reports, was focused nearly 30 miles from my actual location. They knew exactly where they had pushed me overboard, but were directing rescue efforts elsewhere. They weren't searching for me. They were creating an alibi. My poor mother Anthony was quoted saying, "We're desperate to find her, but at her age in these waters." He left the grim conclusion unspoken but implied. I put down the phone, rage and determination replacing exhaustion. My son and his wife had tried to kill me for my money. They thought I was dead, that their plan had succeeded. They would soon discover how wrong they were. Franco and Lucia brought me to their modest home in a fishing village on the Italian coast. Their generosity was overwhelming. They offered clean clothes, homemade soup, and a small bedroom with a view of the harbor. Lucia, a former nurse, checked me for hypothermia and exposure. "You are miracle, Signora," she said in broken English. "Many hours in water. Most people not survive." I stayed glued to news reports on my phone. The story was developing exactly as Anthony and Sophia had planned. The search was being scaled back after 48 hours with no results. Experts on television discussed survival rates for a woman of her advanced age in open water. The consensus was grim. Anthony appeared devastated in press conferences. "My mother was a fighter her entire life," he said, voice breaking on cue. "We're still hoping for a miracle, but we must be realistic." Sophia stood by his side, teary-eyed and supportive. "Dominique was like a mother to me," she told reporters. "Our family is shattered." Meanwhile, they were moving with astonishing speed to take control of Bradford Technologies. Emergency board meetings were called. Continuity leadership was established with Anthony at the helm. Sophia was appointed to a newly created executive position. I needed allies. Using Franco's laptop, I sent an encrypted message to Eleanor through our emergency protocol system. The response came within minutes. Thank God. Location secure. I provided the coordinates of the fishing village but instructed her not to come personally. Send Maria. Maria Bianchi was Eleanor's Italian cousin who worked in our European division. She could reach me without raising suspicion. Maria arrived the following day, embracing me with tears. "We thought we lost you," she whispered. Eleanor has been beside herself. "What's happening at the company?" I asked. Maria's expression darkened. Anthony called an emergency shareholder meeting for next week. They're voting on a new corporate structure that removes most oversight provisions. There are rumors of acquisition offers being entertained. "They're planning to sell my company," I said, the reality sinking in. "Break it apart for quick profit." Eleanor is stalling as much as possible, but Anthony has convinced most of the board that his mother's outdated leadership model needs modernizing. I asked Maria to arrange a secure video call with Eleanor and Jackson Thompson. In Franco and Lucia's spare bedroom with Maria standing watch, I faced my most trusted allies on screen. Eleanor's face crumpled when she saw me. "Dom, if I could reach through this screen and hug you." "You were right about them," Jackson said grimly. "We found the documents they prepared. The mental competency evaluation, the amended, will everything." "They're working fast," Eleanor added. "Anthony's liquidated 3 subsidiary companies already. He's meeting with Tech Global's acquisition team tomorrow." Tech Global was our biggest competitor. They'd tried to buy us out for years. "We need to move faster," I said. "Jackson, what's our legal position?" "Strong now that you're alive. But we need evidence of the attempted murder. Otherwise, it's your word against theirs." I showed them the video I'd recorded before the incident, and the news reports placing the search in the wrong location. "Circumstantial," Jackson said. "We need more." Over the next 3 days, with Eleanor and Jackson's help, I built my case. Eleanor accessed the yacht's navigation records, showing it had neither slowed nor changed course when I supposedly fell overboard. Jackson obtained satellite imagery confirming the yacht's position versus the official search area. Maria brought me a secure laptop and helped establish surveillance of Anthony and Sophia through company systems they didn't know I could access. What we discovered was damning. They had already met with real estate agents about selling my homes. Sophia had contacted auction houses about my art collection. Anthony had drafted press releases announcing a strategic reorganization that would essentially dismantle the company my husband and I had built over 45 years. Most disturbing were their private conversations captured on security systems in my New York mansion that they didn't know existed. "How long before we can legally declare her dead?" Sophia asked, sipping champagne in my study. "Jackson Thompson is being difficult about the timeline," Anthony replied. "But I've got the board chair on our side. We'll push through an emergency succession protocol next week." "Good. I've already picked out office furniture for your mother's corner suite." Their callousness was breathtaking. Not a single moment of remorse or grief in private. Only celebration and planning how to spend my money. I faced an agonizing ethical dilemma. Anthony was still my son, my only child. Despite his monstrous betrayal, maternal instinct made me hesitate at the thought of him facing attempted murder charges, but he and Sophia had tried to kill me. They would have let me drown without a second thought. And they were dismantling my life's work, the company that employed thousands of people. After 3 days of intense planning with my team, I made my decision. Justice had to be served, but on my terms. We set the trap at the mansion, I told Eleanor and Jackson. They've scheduled a celebration of life reception there in 2 weeks. Afterwards, they plan to host an intimate gathering for their closest friends. You mean a party, Eleanor said disgustedly. Exactly. That's when we'll confront them. But first, we need to secure the company. Jackson had prepared emergency injunctions freezing all major company decisions pending investigation of fraudulent activity. Eleanor had documented every unauthorized action Anthony had taken. We had established a secure chain of evidence proving the murder attempt and subsequent cover-up. My special gift for Anthony and Sophia would be comprehensive video evidence, financial records, witness statements, legal documents, ready for immediate filing, and me very much alive sitting in my chair when they returned home thinking they had gotten away with murder. With Maria's help, I arranged transport back to New York via private channels. As far as the world knew, Dominique Bradford was presumed dead at sea. I would remain officially dead until the perfect moment to resurrect. Are you sure about this? Eleanor asked during our final planning call. You could just announce you survived. The attempted murder charges might not stick, but you'd regain control of the company. That's not enough, I replied. They need to face consequences. And I need to see their faces when they realize their perfect plan failed. 2 weeks after being pushed off my yacht, I was ready to reclaim my life and deliver justice to the people who had tried to steal it. From the shadows of a service entrance, I watched my own memorial service unfold in the gardens of my New York estate. Anthony had spared no expense using my money. White roses everywhere, a string quartet catering from the city's finest restaurants. 500 guests from the business world, politics, and high society gathered to celebrate the extraordinary life of Dominique Bradford. The empty casket draped with flowers made me shudder. They hadn't even waited the customary period before declaring me legally dead. Jackson had confirmed they'd used extraordinary legal measures to accelerate the process, citing business continuity needs. Anthony delivered a moving eulogy, his voice breaking at precisely the right moments. My mother was not only a business visionary, but my guiding light, he said, dabbing at non-existent tears. Her legacy will continue through the Bradford Foundation and the companies she built, which I now have the solemn responsibility to lead. Sophia stood beside him in elegant black, occasionally squeezing his arm in support. Her grief performance deserved an Academy Award. Several times she appeared overcome, turning away from the crowd to compose herself. I watched it all through the security system Eleanor had helped me access. The genuine grief of longtime employees contrasted sharply with the calculated performances of my son and his wife. It was surreal watching people mourn me while I sat very much alive in the servants' quarters of my own home. After the memorial, most guests departed. 20 of Anthony and Sophia's closest friends remained for what was billed as a private gathering to support the family. As darkness fell, the tone shifted dramatically. Champagne flowed freely. Music changed from somber classical to upbeat contemporary. Laughter echoed through my home. To Dominique, Anthony toasted, raising his glass. May she rest in peace while we carry on her legacy. Our way. Their friends cheered. The mourning had officially ended. Through the surveillance system, I watched as Anthony gave impromptu tours of the mansion, speaking of renovations he planned. This wall will come down, he told a friend in the library. Sophia wants an entertainment space here. Sophia herself was in my closet with 3 friends trying on my jewelry and designer clothes. She had amazing taste for someone her age. She laughed, modeling my favorite pearl necklace. But so much of this needs updating. They were dividing my possessions while the flowers on my memorial casket were still fresh. The party continued past midnight. Eventually, guests departed, leaving Anthony and Sophia alone in my home. They retreated to the master bedroom, the one I had shared with William for decades. That went perfectly, Sophia said, removing her earrings at my vanity. Everyone bought it completely. Jackson Thompson was suspicious, Anthony replied, loosening his tie. Did you see how he kept watching us? He can't prove anything. The Coast Guard ruled it an accidental drowning. Case closed. Anthony smiled, pouring more champagne. To us, baby. Bradford Technologies is officially ours. The tech global offer comes in tomorrow. 3.5 billion. More than we expected, Sophia purred. And once we sell off the real estate and art collection separately, we'll clear at least another 400 million. Not bad for pushing an old lady off a boat. They laughed together, clinking glasses over my presumed watery grave. I'd seen enough. Eleanor arrived through the service entrance with our team Jackson Thompson, 2 senior Bradford Technologies, security executives, and a private investigator who had documented everything. We finalized preparations while Anthony and Sophia slept in my bed. "Are the papers ready?" I asked Jackson. He nodded grimly. "Emergency injunctions, criminal complaints, everything. The moment you give the word, they'll be served." The security team. "In position around the perimeter," Eleanor confirmed. "No one enters or leaves without our knowledge." "And the evidence." The investigator patted his laptop. "Everything's documented. The yacht logs, the falsified search coordinates, the accelerated death certificate, the unauthorized financial transactions, plus tonight's little party. It's airtight." I took a deep breath. Let's set the final stage. We moved to my study, the heart of my home, where I had made business decisions worth billions over the decades. My chair, a custom-designed leather piece William had given me for our 25th anniversary, was positioned facing the door. On the massive desk, we arranged the special gift for Anthony and Sophia, leather-bound evidence binders, USB drives containing video evidence and legal documents ready for their signatures. Eleanor squeezed my hand. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" After nearly drowning, after watching my son celebrate my death, after seeing them dismantle my life's work, was I ready? Yes. The maternal pain would never leave me, but justice had to be served. "I'm ready," I said firmly. "Everyone to your positions." The team dispersed to predetermined locations throughout the house, connected by secure communications. I settled into my chair, arranged the evidence before me, and waited for morning. At 9:15, I heard them stirring upstairs. Their voices drifted down, discussing breakfast plans and a meeting with tech global executives scheduled for 11. They had no idea their perfect new life was about to implode. At 9:40, footsteps on the stairs. They were coming down together. Through the surveillance feed on my tablet, I watched them pause in the kitchen, pouring coffee. Anthony checked his phone, probably reviewing email before the acquisition meeting. "We should leave by 10:30, he said to Sophia. "I want to stop by the office first to get the final valuation numbers." "Should I wear the blue Chanel or the black Armani to sign $3 billion away?" Sophia laughed. "Wear my mother's pearls," Anthony suggested. "Seems fitting." They moved from the kitchen toward the main foyer, passing near the study door. Sophia paused. "Did you leave the study light on last night?" Anthony frowned. "No. Maybe housekeeping was in there." Curiosity drew them toward the partially open door. This was it. My heart pounded as I straightened in my chair facing the entrance. The door swung wider. Anthony stepped in, first coffee cup in hand, his expression changing from casual to frozen shock as he saw me. The cup crashed to the floor. "Hello, Anthony," I said calmly. "Sophia, you look like you've seen a ghost." Sophia screamed, stumbling backward into the doorframe. Anthony stood paralyzed, his face draining of color. For several seconds, the only sound was Sophia's ragged breathing. "This is impossible," Anthony finally whispered. "You drowned." The Coast Guard confirmed it. "How disappointing for you both," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions within me. Imagine surviving 14 hours in open water at my advanced age. Quite the miracle, wouldn't you say? Sophia recovered first, her actress instincts kicking in. "Dominique. Oh my God, you're alive." She rushed forward as if to embrace me, tears instantly materializing. "It's a miracle. We've been devastated, searching everywhere for you." I raised my hand, stopping her advance. "Save the performance, Sophia. I believe the line you're looking for is, 'Say hi to the sharks.'" She froze, her false smile crumbling. "Mother, there's been a terrible misunderstanding." Anthony began, his lawyer's mind already formulating a defense. Sophia and I have been sick with grief. We've been working with the authorities organizing search parties. In all the wrong places, I noted. Quite deliberately in the wrong places, in fact. I gestured to the materials arranged on the desk before me. Please, both of you sit down. I have a special gift for you. Reluctantly, they took seats across from me. Anthony's eyes darted around the room, likely looking for escape routes or assessing how alone we were. What is all this, he asked, indicating the binders. Evidence, I replied simply. Of attempted murder, fraud, financial crimes, and conspiracy. I opened the first binder. Let's start with the navigation logs from the Bradford Legacy, showing no course change or slowing when I supposedly accidentally fell overboard. Followed by satellite imagery showing the official search focused 30 miles from where I actually entered the water. I turned the page. Then we have these fascinating documents prepared before the yacht trip. Draft press releases announcing my tragic death. Paperwork to seize emergency control of Bradford Technologies. Even a menu for my memorial service created 2 weeks before I supposedly drowned. Sophia's perfectly manicured hand trembled as she reached for the evidence. These are forgeries. Someone is setting us up. That would be quite the elaborate setup, I remarked. Almost as elaborate as pushing your mother-in-law overboard and leaving her to drown. I pressed a button on my desk phone. Eleanor, would you join us, please? Eleanor entered from the adjoining room, followed by Jackson Thompson. Anthony's face hardened at the sight of them. So this is a coordinated ambush, he said coldly. Whatever evidence you think you have won't stand up in court. It's your word against ours. Jackson stepped forward. Actually, it's your words against you. We have audio and video of your conversations since the incident, including last night's revelations about, and I quote, pushing an old lady off a boat. On cue, Eleanor activated the large screen on the wall playing footage from their bedroom conversation. Anthony and Sophia watched in horror as their own voices filled the room discussing how they had murdered me for my money. That's illegally obtained, Anthony snapped. Inadmissible. In a criminal court, perhaps Jackson agreed. But the board of Bradford Technologies will find it quite admissible when deciding your future with the company. As will the press. Anthony's demeanor shifted then from defensive to calculating. He leaned forward, his voice softening. Mom, I know how this looks. We made a terrible mistake. We got caught up in something dark, but we can fix this. We're family. Family. The word pierced my heart. This man who had watched silently as his wife pushed me to my presumed death was appealing to family bonds. You stopped being family the moment you chose money over my life, I said quietly. Sophia suddenly stood, her composure breaking completely. It was Anthony's idea, all of it. He said you'd never give him control willingly. He planned everything. I just went along with it. Anthony's head whipped toward her. You lying bitch. You're the one who pushed her. Because you told me to, Sophia shrieked. You promised me half of everything. As they turned on each other, I pressed another button on my desk. The study door opened again, revealing 2 police officers and a district attorney I had known for years. Mr. and Mrs. Bradford, the DA said formally. You're both under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, and financial crimes. You have the right to remain silent. Their shouting match dissolved into stunned silence as the officers handcuffed them. Sophia began sobbing uncontrollably while Anthony stared at me with cold hatred. You won't go through with this, he hissed as they let him out. You won't send your only son to prison. His words haunted me long after they were gone. Would I follow through? Could I testify against my own child in court? The weeks that followed tested me in ways that even fighting for survival in open water had not. The press coverage was relentless. Bradford tech billionaire rises, from dead to catch killer family, screamed the headlines. Our stock price fluctuated wildly before stabilizing when I formally resumed control. Anthony and Sophia faced separate trials on my insistence. Her attorneys negotiated a plea deal in exchange for testifying against Anthony. He maintained his innocence despite overwhelming evidence, forcing a full trial that laid bare our family's darkest moments. In the end, justice was served. Anthony received 20 years for attempted murder and financial crimes. Sophia got 8 years for her role with possibility of earlier parole for cooperation. The pain of watching my only child led away in prison clothing was indescribable. No mother should endure seeing her son sentenced to decades behind bars. Yet the alternative, allowing attempted murder to go unpunished, was unthinkable. I rebuilt Bradford Technologies with Eleanor's help, promoting loyal employees and establishing new oversight provisions. We created the Bradford Integrity Foundation using company profits to help victims of financial exploitation and elder abuse. When reporters asked how I felt about my son, I gave the only honest answer possible. I love him still, but love without accountability isn't love at all. It's enabling. Healing came slowly. I sold the yacht, and the mansion too, filled with painful memories. I moved to a smaller home in Connecticut, surrounded by gardens and close to Eleanor's family, who had become my surrogate family. At 75, I wrote my memoirs donating all proceeds to organizations helping rebuild lives after betrayal. I established a whistleblower protection fund for employees reporting corporate wrongdoing. The greatest lesson from my ordeal was learning the difference between forgiveness and forgetting. I forgave Anthony and Sophia not for their benefit but for my own peace. Yet I never forgot what they did. Never allowed sentiment to override wisdom. The most frequent question I received was whether I would reconcile with my son. My answer never changed. Reconciliation requires acknowledgement and remorse. Without those, it's just another form of self-betrayal. Anthony never admitted his guilt or expressed genuine remorse. His letters from prison focused on how I had overreacted to a momentary lapse in judgment. True healing came when I accepted that the son I raised and loved had made choices that separated him from me forever. My responsibility was not to excuse those choices but to ensure they had appropriate consequences for his sake as well as society's. At 78, I stepped back from daily operations at Bradford Technologies, focusing on mentoring young entrepreneurs, particularly women and minorities breaking into the tech world. I found purpose in helping others navigate the business world with integrity and resilience. Life offers no guarantees, not even from those closest to us. The wealthy are not immune to betrayal, perhaps we are even more vulnerable to it. My near death taught me to value authenticity over appearance, substance over status, and principle over comfort. I survived being pushed off a yacht into dark waters. I survived the betrayal of my only child. I survived watching greed destroy what should have been sacred family bonds. If my story teaches anything, it's this: our capacity to begin again is limitless at any age. At 73, I started over. I rebuilt. I found new purpose and meaning. Have you ever had to start over when you thought life was settled? How did you find the strength to rebuild? Drop a comment below sharing your story of resilience. And if this tale of survival against all odds resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming life's darkest moments, and share with someone who might need to be reminded of their own strength. Today, remember, it's never too late to reclaim your power and rewrite your story. Thank you for listening to mine.